police officers who fail background checks are going to be automatically sacked under new rules to improve confidence in our policing.
The measures will be introduced to Parliament today, making it a legal requirement for serving officers to pass vetting procedures. Policing Minister Dame Diana Johnson joins us now. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Morning.
People might find it hard to believe this hasn't already happened. On the other hand, there might be, I suppose, malicious allegations made about police officers that haven't been tested in a court of law, which could lead them to lose their jobs. So how are you going to balance that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Most people will be very surprised to know that if a police officer can't hold vetting, that at the moment there is no way of removing them from the police service and dismissing them. So I think the introduction of this bespoke way of dealing with that, and this is about background checks to make sure that the officer is not a risk to the public or to their colleagues, is really important. I ought to say as well that there is an appeal from this. So if an officer loses their vetting, they do have the right to appeal. And clearly, if there are allegations made against an officer that involve a criminal offence, that should be investigated as it would with any member of the public. And if it's a misconduct issue, that again should be investigated through the misconduct and disciplinary proceedings within the police service. This is specifically about vetting and about assessing the risk of an officer. And I ought to say as well that the vast majority of officers are obviously very brave and committed to serving the public. So this is about dealing with those who should not be within the police service and removing them swiftly but fairly.
Once this is in place, are we going to see all police officers? Are we going back to like a ground zero and all police officers will be re-vetted and we'll take it from there?
Well, police officers have to be vetted during the course of their employment as a police officer. Generally, between every 7 to 10 years, they're vetted. If they move between police forces, they should be vetted, re-vetted. And if they move into different roles, they're often re-vetted as well. So this is a continuous programme. And we've also committed as well, after some of the cases that have come to light, to have what's called integrity screening. So there is work ongoing all the time to make sure that if a police officer comes to the attention of another police force for perhaps intelligence that's made available around, say, domestic abuse, that is put onto the police database and that is looked at constantly.
Right. Thank you. Can we talk about the continuing debate in this country about transgender and transgender rights? We saw what many people interpreted as a kind of a screeching U-turn by your Prime Minister yesterday, accepting, obviously, the judgment of the Supreme Court last week. Do you think he should have gone further? I'd just like to quote you what J.K. Rowling has been quoted as saying in this morning's papers. She said, having seen that statement yesterday, imagine being such a coward, you can only muster the courage to tell the truth once the Supreme Court has ruled on what the truth is. She means, of course, a woman being a woman if she's a biological woman. Do you think that your Prime Minister does need to apologise to women in this country?
Well, what I'm really focused on is the judgment that came out last week, which I think I'm very pleased provided the very clear approach to how we deal with the Equality Act of 2010 and what a woman is, and that it is a biological woman, not a legal woman, that we should be looking at. So I think that's really helpful. And what I know about the Prime Minister is that he follows the law. And so the fact we have that ruling, I think it's really now absolutely essential that public services, I'm the policing minister, so policing in particular, the NHS, education, now look at the processes and procedures we have in place to make sure that we are in step and in line with the law. And we've got those protections in place for women in particular. And of course, the Labour Party has always protected women-only spaces. That's something we've always championed. And of course, we brought the Equality Act in 2010. So I'm just really pleased we're now in this position of having absolute clarity about what the Equality Act means.
Well, we have clarity on the law, but how are you going to police it? How, for example, are you going to police a situation where a trans woman deliberately and knowingly goes into a woman's toilet or a woman's only changing room? How will you police that as the Policing's Minister?
And I think that's why we need this guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission. And I heard Bridget Phillipson yesterday in the Commons talking about how important it is to get that guidance as quickly as possible. And for the NHS, for their guidance to be updated as quickly as possible.
So you don't know yet? You don't know yet, then?
Well, no, and that's why we need the guidance. We need that assistance in how this is going to actually work in practice. And particularly around policing, I've already been having conversations with policing. It's obviously an operational matter for them as to how they implement the law. But now we have clarity, for example, around strip searching, that has to be based on biological sex. That's been very clear now for the police to go away and make sure that they have the right procedures in place.
Just a couple of issues before we let you go. One is we had a very heated debate a little earlier on the programme about the fact that police officers are not entitled to go on strike. And I just wonder, as a Labour government, obviously in receipt of, large amounts of union support and union money, is that something you could ever see changing?
That's not something that the government would look to change. We are very clear that the police are in a very special category because of the role that they have in keeping communities safe and protecting the public. So that's not anything that we would be looking at to introduce.
What would be the consequences if police officers went on strike?
Well, the whole reason why it's in law that they are not able to strike is because we recognise the very special place that police officers have in society in keeping us safe and secure and protecting communities. So there are various other mechanisms to ensure that policing are able to make their case to government, particularly around issues around pay and conditions, but they are set out in regulation because we recognise the special case for police officers.
Law and order would break down, wouldn't it, if police officers went on strike?
Yeah.
And just finally, it's St George's Day to most of us, not to the Church of England, which has decreed it's on Monday. We were saying earlier that it was extraordinary that despite the fact the Prime Minister has said we need to reclaim the flag of St George, it wasn't fluttering above number 10 Downing Street this morning.
That was an hour ago.
In the last few minutes, it has been hoist.
That's good to know. Good.
So it's good to know that your people watch Good Morning Britain.
It is, isn't it? So thank you. It was very cloudy this morning when I came past Downing Street, so I couldn't see what was flying there or not. But I'm very glad the flag's up. That's good.
It's up then, alongside the Union flag as well.
Good.
There are two flags.
Excellent.
All right.
Dame Diana Johnson, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for your time.
For joining us.